Welcome back to another episode of Deadite Talk, where we go back and rewatch Ash vs. Evil Dead, our favorite horror TV show. We are halfway through doing this already for the first season. We're on episode 5. And, you know, this has just been a blast doing this. Looking forward to doing this every week and getting excited to watch the next episode. And, you know, it's one of those shows where you just want to binge watch and, like, trying to hold yourself back from actually watching the next episode. It's very difficult for me, at least, because I just want to watch it all because I love the TV show that much. And like I said, you know, just getting excited to do a review and talk about all the scenes in depth. And, you know, there's a lot going on in this episode. There's a lot of DVD commentary as well that was a lot, like, very interesting compared to the last episode. The last episode was great, but didn't have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We've got a lot more in this one. We've got some longer reviews to read through, and, you know, it's just going to take a lot of time getting through it all. But before we begin, I just want to ask you guys to support the channel and the podcast, you know, hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button, leaving a comment. Always greatly appreciated. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can buy some merch related to the Deadite Talk on my channel. I've got my own logo and stuff like that. And you can become a member and leave a super thanks. But let's jump straight into this and let's get into Ash vs. Evil Dead episode 5, The Host. We're going green on this podcast now. I'm just reading from my tablet because I was getting sick of printing it all out. I had like 10 pages long. You could hear me shuffling the papers and stuff during the podcast, and then, you know, it just wasn't a pleasant experience. So I'm using my tablet. You know, it's an old tablet. It's going to have some use finally. So in episode 5, The Host, it was aired in November 28th, 2015. Directed David Frazee, the last person from the previous episode. The same director from the previous episode, which makes sense because this is kind of like a two-parter. Just like in the episodes before that, it was both MJ Bassett, who did the Eligos one and stuff, and the Kelly's Family episode. So makes sense that they kind of have a director for 2 episodes, I guess, just to kind of keep the little plot or the little story that they do have across the 2 episodes kind of together, and directed by the same people. Anyway, moving on. Written by Zoe Green. So Zoe Green's actually done 10 episodes of Ash vs. Evil Dead as well. They've done a lot of the TV show Siren, and they've done Carnival Row as well. They haven't actually done a whole lot of TV shows, so they might be a fairly new writer. I think the writing was, you know, it wasn't terrible in this episode. There was some writing, like, I usually look at the writing points from the previous episodes, and they weren't the best. But Zoe Green actually does a great job of this. So, yeah, like I said, you know, they've probably done about 5 or 6 TV shows, I think it said on IMDb. But yeah, they did, like, you know, they do multiple episodes for these TV shows. So definitely has a little bit of experience, but, you know, she did a good job for Ash vs. Evil Dead, I think. And, you know, if we had more episodes like this with David Frazee, with Zoe Green writing it, I feel like, you know, all the episodes would be really fantastic. But we'll get into those later on, obviously. It's been developed for TV by Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi. So my understanding when we do say this is that the writers kind of send the drafts over to Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi, and they kind of proofread them, you know, fill in some blanks, or, you know, kind of smoothing it out so it is actually really better for the episode. So it is guest starring Hemke Madeira as Brujo, Spider-Man Homecoming, Rango, Mandalorian, as you all know. Ben Franzem as Eligos, Jared Turner as the voice of Eligos as well. The synopsis: Kelly's current state puts others in jeopardy. This forces Pablo to make a brave move, and Ash to reveal a new side to his character as well. You know what, this tablet's quite heavy. I wish it was quite lighter. Might have to purchase a Kindle or something. But we start the episode with Brujo tying up Ash after Kelly tells that he was trying to strangle her during his trip, and asks if Ash is possessed by a demon named Eligos, while in fact Kelly is. Pablo theorizes that the demon must have entered Ash back at the bookstore, and Brujo intends to perform an exorcism ritual which may involve cutting out Ash's brain lobe. Eligos taunts Ash, and he's left tied up at the mercy of the witch doctor. You know, talking about performing an operation on Ash, I thought was really funny. You know, saying, and he's telling, you know, get that knife, Pablo, don't get the bread knife, because that was expensive. I thought it was pretty funny. You know, just kept the comedy factor in the serious moment, I guess, with the whole switcheroo going on. It was pretty funny. And you know, the scene is great to work with, that the suspense that Kelly is the one actually possessed. You know, Bruce must have hated trying to talk during filming this scene, which he does talk about a little bit in the DVD commentary later on. And a nice little transition on Kelly switching between Eligos and back to normal while they were taunting Ash. That was cool. Then Pablo goes back to the trailer where Eligos, as Kelly, tells him to stay calm and not to interfere with the ritual. She finds Ash's stash of weed and tells Pablo to get a pipe. Funny watching Eligos just rake through Ash's stuff in this scene. You know, he's pulling out the extra large love gloves, you know, the man girdle and stuff, and like commenting on it, like, you know, it's pretty funny seeing a demon just kind of act natural and have a sort of human reaction to seeing these sort of things. And, you know, it's like he is being Kelly in that moment, which is interesting. So it is an interesting side to Eligos that we don't usually see. Smart writing again as well, kind of giving us a little bit of backstory on Eligos. You know, he's not just this really serious demon. He's there to really fuck with them, and you know, they just do it in simple, short ways again. Then we cut to Amanda and the mysterious woman wait for Ash's sever hand to show them the direction that they need to go in. And Amanda asks about the mechanics of demon possession. The woman explains that things don't have to make sense in order to exist, and when the hand finally shows the way, she starts driving. Just a note from this scene, Amanda's still confused and trying not to believe what is happening. It's just kind of, right, we've been there, we've done that for the last 4 episodes. Like, we don't need it again in this one. Also, Ruby having a little flirt with her was interesting to see. Maybe she sees her as her plaything, or as just fucking with her in general. Probably fucking with her. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just kind of thrown in there. It's a scene that, you know, it gives us a little answer on what these characters are up to, but again, we still don't know their end goal or what's happening. You know, it's kind of useless, I guess. You know, you could even not even have them in this episode and it would still be pretty fine. You know, like you wouldn't really give, like, because they're so out of the loop and so out of the limelight of the other characters, is where we're just not really that interested at the moment, like what's happening with them. Like, we know they left the Books from Beyond store to hunt down Ash, and we're assuming she's gonna be using the hand to track him down in any ways. I just don't think we really needed this scene. Maybe it's a continuity thing, like it was just thrown in there, but it was a recorded scene from a later episode or something. It's just yeah, I don't know why it's there, to be honest. And yeah, just strange. And by the way, I want to say, when we were commenting about Ruby's car in the episode 2, TV tropes who I get the scene by scenes by, and I kind of proofread them a little bit, but not all the way. I think they were saying that a car was a Dodge Viper, which I don't know, when reading that, I don't know how it didn't click that was wrong. Obviously, it's like a Dodge Challenger or a Charger, at least. But yeah, it's a cool looking car, regardless. I really like that car. Moving on. Kelly uses Ash's boomstick as a pipe, startling Pablo, and attempts to seduce him, which ultimately works, as we know Pablo has the hots for Kelly, and who could resist her right now, right? Brujo begins to try and unpossess Ash by using charms, to no result. Pablo reluctantly agrees to take a hit and tries to explain that he has been waiting to get closer to her. Kelly intends to load the shotgun the moment he takes the hit, and becomes very insistent about it, but he relents. Eligos reveals himself and attempts to kill Pablo. Meanwhile, Brujo attempts to perform the ritual on Ash, but the one-handed man manages to convince him that Kelly's the demon. They go back to the trail when Pablo is holding Eligos at gunpoint, but refuses to shoot him. Just some notes from this. Dana is very hot in this scene, like scorching hot. She plays it very well too, and is really convincing. The way Ray is delivering his lines as well, you know, adding little subtle pauses here and there to show his kind of awkwardness and reluctant to kind of take his chance with Kelly there. I thought he did a good job with that. He also shows a little fear along with the excitement as well, which is done in a great way. Somehow 2 shots come out with the boomstick as well, when one side had weed in it, which I thought was interesting. So she obviously fills one side with weed and she's smoking that. We hear the gunshot, that's why Ash and Brujo run over to the cabin, and then Pablo fires another shot after that. So yeah, I don't know where the other shot come from. You know, I'm always picking little things like that out. The directing was on point in the scene again, and the editing, you know, cutting back and forth between Ash and Brujo and like reacting to what's happening inside the trailer at the same time, I thought was really cool. It was just good direction doing that. You know, we didn't have to keep doing little scene skips and like, you know, slowly building momentum. They just did it at fast chop pace, which I appreciated a lot more. And then on top of that, you know, seeing Keligos in all her glory. I call her Keligos. Keligos. That's the one. Keligos. Kelly Eligos. Great job on makeup, and enough to make us believe when she shifts into full Eligos mode as well. Honestly, I thought Dana just did a really, really cool thing. Like, just the way she was acting, moving her mouth around and stuff. And, you know, she's kind of putting her head down a lot more and looking up at them like, you know, I mean business when she's like in Eligos mode. I thought was really well done. Brujo performs the ritual on Kelly and feeds her leeches with his blood, but the demon vomits them out. He later attempts to use sanctified water and starts waterboarding Kelly, which makes her pee herself. But the possession doesn't end. Eligos starts bashing his head against the board, attempting to kill Kelly, but Pablo encourages her to fight it. He and Brujo then go outside, where Pablo feels regretful about turning his back on Brujeria. Is that a right word? I don't know. And apologizes to his uncle. And the shaman apologizes for pushing him away, but praises him for finding a dim light of El Jefe inside of Ash. Absolutely love this scene, to be honest. You know, a lot went on there. Obviously, you know, what the TV trope is left out here, the scene by scene, is Pablo goes outside because there's a little hint here that the demon gets more powerful with the fear around him. So obviously Pablo's afraid that he's going to lose Kelly, and, you know, he kind of runs outside to stop Eligos from gaining any more power over him. The camera movement at the beginning, it's very subtle, it's very quick. You know, people will probably skip over this a lot and didn't really notice it in the scene, but, you know, we transition from outside where it's kind of zooming in on all the different totems around, and then, you know, the camera cuts through a bunch of stuff going into the hut there. And it's a lot like a Sam Raimi camera movement, which I can respect and appreciate a lot more. You know, they could have just simply cut to the scene inside of the hut. You know, they could have just started the scene there, but, you know, they kind of drew it out from outside, you know, creating an atmosphere and suspense of, you know, something's about to fucking go down, and then they zoom in to the hut where stuff is starting to go down, which I really liked, honestly. The director continues with similar close-ups to the props from the previous episode as well. You know, showing us the leeches up close, you know, close up of the camera on Kelly, or Keligos, and on Brujo there, which I thought was really well done. Kelly then starts grinding her teeth, you know, then picking one out and spinning it at Ash was cool to look at as well. You know, this is a great thing about a TV show and Ash versus Evil Dead, you know, or just Evil Dead in general. You know, when someone is possessed, they never act boring, you know. They're always kind of elevating it and going above and beyond and kind of creating a psychotic character, and, like, how would they act? You know, you could play with all the different props at your disposal there and just really fuck around with it. And, you know, it would be interesting to know if, you know, what was improvised and what was actually scripted in this. And, you know, they do go into a little bit of detail about that, but, you know, just things when someone is becoming a Deadite, you know, what's the transition like? What's it like playing that type of character? It's obviously going to be a lot of fun, because then you can, you know, just kind of create the moment yourself, and then you can be proud of that. And, you know, it would definitely be something I would have fun with doing, honestly. And, you know, that's why, and, you know, after doing the whole thing with the teeth and that, then it's continued with the puking and the peeing as well. It just kind of fuck with us even more and fuck with the audience. I found it interesting that they added the CGI puke, honestly. I thought that was a bit weird. You know, maybe Dana had enough going on in her teeth and all that, like the fake teeth that she had in, where she couldn't really have that in her mouth as well, because if she goes to spit that out, then maybe the teeth would come flying out. Maybe that's why. Just a little nitpick, you know, most things, the TV shows and stuff, they never really have CGI puke, so yeah, I just thought it was very strange. Then we have, you know, the sort of hopelessness feel when the water didn't work, so when she's getting waterboarded, you know, it goes back to Kelly being herself and then immediately jumping back to Eligos as well, which was cool in a smart way to keep the suspense going on, like, how is she going to get unpossessed here, because, you know, Brujo has kind of exhausted all of his resources almost. The scene and the lighting on Pablo and Brujo when they step outside, I thought was absolutely beautiful. You know, it's a nice thing in this show because it gets you feeling a certain way while watching, and gets you more engaged in a scene that you're watching as well. It just makes you appreciate and enjoy it more, honestly. I'm always looking for things like that, because I've watched this TV show like 4 or 5 times, and, you know, now I know what the story is, I know what's going to happen, but this gives me the opportunity to really take in the atmosphere, the scenery, and the direction, and, you know, the way the characters are acting, or the actors are acting for their characters, should I say. So just noticing these details makes me appreciate it a whole lot more, and just making me enjoy the watching these episodes even more, and just enjoying the TV show so much more as well. After all, what Ash has seen and done, you know, I thought this was a bit was kind of leading to this. So when Pablo and Brujo step outside, you know, they're talking and stuff, I was really just expecting to hear the chainsaw getting revved up, or a boomstick being shot, because I didn't think at the time that, you know, Kelly and Dana, because she's been possessed, I really thought, like, this is the end for the character. you know, obviously when you've played the game and, you know, you've seen the whole season, that's not the case. But, you know, just, it's one of those things that in the back of my mind, when you've watched the movies and you know what happens, you know what's going to happen. When they stepped outside and, you know, the previous episode of Ash kind of finding himself and knowing what he needs to be done to take down Eligos and to take out demons in general, I was really expecting to just hear a boomstick shot or something in there. That was going to be the end of Kelly. You know, they would go rushing in and ask Ash what the fuck happened and stuff. And he was like, you know, shoot first, think never, like that type of ordeal. I thought that was what was going to happen. So they kind of did a great job in kind of playing that off with us, I guess, with that scene. Kelly in a seemingly so the next scene, Kelly in a seeming moment of clarity asks Ash to kill her and put a cross on her grave, but Ash, remembering that she's Jewish, realizes that it's the demon talking and refuses. Pablo decides that he should take Eligos from Kelly. The demon emerges from Kelly's mouth and starts torturing Brujo before swatting him away and making him land on a sharp piece of metal. This scene reminded me a bit of Commando, not gonna lie, when they're having the fight in the apartment and Arnold Schwarzenegger just beats that guy in through the wall and he lands on a sharp object. It just reminded me of that a little bit. Ash is unable to shoot Eligos due to the demon teleporting all over the place, but he remembers his mantra of shoot first, think never, and tosses his boomstick up before swiping at the enemy with a chainsaw. As Eligos teleports in front of him, Ash catches the shotgun and blows his brains out. Ash then checks on Kelly, who awakens with no memory of what happened or where she is. So, a lot happened with this scene. You know, we lost Brujo, unfortunately, but it was a really cool death to have, I guess. It was absolutely brutal. it was a well thought out one. Now, I have a problem with the whole Eligos wanting to leave Kelly and then possess Pablo, like kind of drawing him out. Like, I thought it was a little bit too easy. I'm not sure why that happened. Maybe he thought if he possesses Pablo, because Pablo is more afraid than Kelly, it would be easier to take hold of him, because obviously Kelly might be resistant some way. So that could be why. I maybe have that in the idea there of, you know, it's open to interpretation as why he would do it and what you believe. And yeah, I guess that's probably what happened there. And on top of that, you know, sadly, like I said, Brujo died. The soundtrack in the beginning of the scene as well, with the slow guitar build up as they're entering back into the hut, I thought was really nice. It enhances the scene a little bit more. The effect of Eligos climbing out with Kelly was done pretty well as well. And there's a funny thing about that in the DVD commentary, actually, which we'll talk about when we get there. You know, they kept up with their consistency of paying attention to the boomstick only having 2 shots again. You know, Ash shoots once, and then he has the close-up of, like, realizing shoot first, think never. And, you know, obviously he fires a second shot to kill Eligos. Ash already knew it was Eligos, so this is a nitpick for me. Ash, or like at the start of the episode, you can clearly see when Ash is being gagged, and Kelly's sitting there going, "I am Eligos" and stuff like that, like saying that's what Ash was saying. So Ash already knew it was Eligos. So why was he saying it's that same son of a bitch when he starts climbing out of Kelly? Like, we already knew, right? Ash already knew. So I thought that was just a little nitpick there. I don't know why we did that. Honestly, I thought Brujo dying was quite surprising, to be honest with this. So yeah, there was another little thing from this scene I wanted to talk about real quick. Obviously, Eligos is kind of like, he doesn't seem as powerful as what he was inside the bookstore. Obviously, he was teleporting and grabbing them, but he seemed a little bit more mischievous inside the bookstore. I wonder if his powers sort of diminished a little bit from being hit by the Necronomicon, or just because he's in the area of the Brujo's hut and he's got all these totems around, that's maybe he's preventing him to go full power. Potentially, I don't know. He seemed a little weaker in this episode compared to the last one that he was in when we physically saw him. You know, I really thought it would have been cool to have some more lighting effects and everything during the fight. You know, well, lighting and not lighting, because obviously it was like daytime and there wasn't even any electricity around, but maybe that's why as well, there wasn't really any electricity around. So yeah, honestly, I really thought it was a cool scene seeing that. I really thought the effect of Eligos getting his brains blown out was awesome. Bruce again playing Ash in the scene was awesome. How he was showing the reaction of hearing himself shoot first and think never. And again, just remind us of why we love this character even more. You know, just when they do the close up of Bruce and the way he's like sort of reacting to the own voice, like his own voice inside of his head, I thought was done really well for the acting there. moving on to the next one, the trio set up a funeral pyre for El Brujo, and Pablo sets it on fire, giving him the last rites. I laughed there because there's something about that scene as well we'll get into. Suddenly, the shaman's medallion falls next to Pablo's feet, and he hears Uncle's voice coming from it. He takes it and leaves just as the totems are set ablaze. This was a badass moment. Ash gives Kelly a brief recap of what happened during her possession. He tries to apologize to both of his companions for causing this entire mess. Pablo shows him the new prosthetic he made, impressing Ash, and they leave the property driving along, and I guess we don't know where they're going. They never really mentioned. On TV tropes, I actually changed this because they said they were driving on their way to Jacksonville, and, you know, rewatching the episode, I didn't hear them express that they were going towards Jacksonville at all, so I'm not sure where TV tropes got that one from. But yeah, I thought it was a strange ending to the episode, to be honest. I like the little conclusion at the end where, you know, we've had all this chaos throughout the entire episode. It was heavy, and then we had like the lighten factor of them interacting with each other when it was all calmed down, you know, like the calm after the storm, I guess. And, you know, you need that to kind of give the characters some humanity. You can't have Ash just being a dumbass killing demons all the time. You know, he kind of needs to give Bill his medicine back, I guess you could say that. So, you know, having that at the end was fine, but they never hinted at what's happening next. They never showed another scene with Amanda and Ruby potentially on their way, if they were going to really keep focus on them at all. So yeah, it was just kind of cut short at the end, even though I did like the end direction of them driving off and down the road, and, you know, the way they shot that with the drone looked really cool. I would just would have liked a bit of a cliffhanger, I guess. I mean, it's a little cliffhanger. We're like, okay, they're driving off, but where to next? But it was also kind of a way for them to say we're leaving everything behind now. We've lost our family. You know, Kelly's lost her family. Pablo's lost his family now. And, you know, there's really no return now. So, you know, we're in this together. Let's move on. So the reaction of Pablo picking up his uncle's amulet looked very realistic. It actually looked like the thing was hot, and the way he was like kind of moving his fingers around looked pretty cool. The music of when he's walking away from the uncle being cremated and all the totems in the background and stuff when setting on fire was really cool. You know, this is kind of indicating that he's become the Brujo now, or he's on the journey to become the next Brujo. And respectively as well, with all the totems kind of lighting up, and just the music was great. I wasn't sure what the soundtrack was in that background there. It sounded like some mariachi music or something, but it was cool. The acting in the scene of them around Brujo was great as well. You know, when they're cremating him, having the sorrow in the sense they have no family left to turn to and must do this on their own now. There's no going back. Ash opening up to Pablo and Kelly in the trailer was a nice touch of the character, showing more of his humanity, like I explained before. You know, wanting to take the blame even though it doesn't feel good for him. After this being such a heavy episode with all the Keligos stuff, Brujo dying, when Ash finally gets that hand and says he's going to shove it right up some Deadite's ass and giving Pablo the middle finger just lightens the mood entirely, and it was just hilarious. And then again, like I said, the drone helicopter shot of them driving along was great. You know, I just wish we could have got something else in terms of a direction of where they're heading to. So that was the scene by scene. It took us nearly half an hour to get through all that because a lot happened in this episode. And, you know, I had a lot of notes that I had wanted to get across to everyone. And yeah, this one's definitely going to be a lot longer because we have a lot to talk about, especially in the next part, which is the interesting things of note. DVD commentary. Dana said she was trying not to laugh when Bruce was gagged at the beginning because he was making loads of different noises and stuff. Bruce sarcastically said he loved being tied up with all the rope and candles behind him, but was serious in saying he likes the advances in the prop department because they don't use real rope. They use Velcro to make it easier, but it looks like rope as well. Also, Bruce actually was improvising in that scene and started just doing dialogue as well and reacting on the spot because there actually wasn't really any dialogue written for that. Because you can sort of hear him say like, "Oh, you're gonna cut my balls off" and all that stuff through the rope, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Bruce was glad Dana and Ray were capable of carrying the show on their own because he didn't want to be the old guy carrying the show, and was happy they were easygoing and fun to work with. Understandable, you know, when Bruce is a lot older and he's like, he doesn't want to be that guy that's, you know, carrying the weight of the TV show on his episodes. Even though he's the main character, I've always said that Dana and Ray, you know, Kelly and Pablo could have carried this entire TV show if Ash did die or if Ash disappeared. They definitely could have. I think they do a really good job and they have great chemistry, and we'll get into that a little bit. Dana said smoking the fake weed was like smoking incense that was growing out of a horse's ass. It tasted awful and smelled even worse. Also said the shotgun they were smoking out of was the real one that they used and was extremely heavy, which made it awkward to shoot, passing it to Pablo during that scene there. Dana and Ray say they would go out and hang out all the time, and Jill, who plays Amanda, would wonder how they're talking to each other so much all the time, and like, how are you not running out of things to talk about? Which Ray says this is the chemistry they had with each other and why they work so well in the scene when they're smoking the weed, because Ray and Dana said, you know, shooting that scene was really fun, being able to act however she wanted to. And it took a lot out of her to try not to laugh when Ray booped her forehead. Ray also said he really wanted to throw a kiss in the scene too. You know, I think that would have been a bit weird, I guess, just because we know that it's not actually Kelly and it's Eligos. Obviously, he didn't know that. But it would have been fucked up if they were kissing and then he did turn into Eligos and started to attack him or something like that. I was just weird. But again, I think it's nice to see these characters have a little bit of freedom to do whatever they want to do in terms of enhancing a scene even further with their acting and the way they deliver their lines. And, you know, everything's just on a script, and they get a little bit of directing from the director saying like, okay, act this way, act that way. But, you know, you can only do so much and listen to so much where you start doing things on instinct and how you want to portray a character. I think they do it really well. Dana said she always wanted to play a psychotic person like Jack Nicholson. Bruce jokingly says, yeah, you do it really well, a little too well. The rings on Kelly's hand in this episode spell out the word help. So we went back, I think it was episode 2, when Kelly said that the prop or the costume department, I forget her name, who works there, but every episode Kelly has a different word spelled out on her fingers there with her rings, which is interesting. Dana has no idea how she ended up doing a sort of British accent to play a possessed Kelly. She kind of does. She also says her teeth would keep falling out when she was trying to eat the leeches. She was also scared the leeches were real and wouldn't open her mouth. There was real leeches in the bowl during the scene, and they would only switch it out to the fake ones in the moment, and she still has nightmares. She goes swimming all the time, and she was terrified being waterboarded in the scene with Brujo because she really couldn't breathe. Now, I thought this was going to be a stunt woman doing this, or he wasn't actually pouring it on her face, because if you pay attention to the camera, it kind of looks like the water's going past her, and like, you know how they do camera trickery where you think the water's hitting the face, but it looks like it's just going down the side of her. But I was actually surprised that she filmed it herself and they actually waterboarded her, because, you know, that's the kind of stuff they do in torture, you know, and I don't know, when they're doing interrogations. And obviously with waterboarding, they're usually lying down, so it's a lot harder for them to breathe. But she said she literally couldn't breathe, even though she was standing up doing it, and it was kind of fucked up. And yeah, I mean, I was just very surprised with that. She also got a battle wound scar on her back from the exorcism scene because of her mic pack on her back kept digging into her skin when she was hitting herself against it. Bruce says he got a scar on the other side of his chin that you don't see. He got this from Army of Darkness when he flipped the stunt guy down the stairs, and he went and the weight of the stunt guy made him cut his chin on his breastplate. They then took him to an emergency room in full makeup and clothing on Army of Darkness, and the producer said he may need plastic surgery for his face to keep acting. So a plastic surgeon showed up and inquired which one it was, because he had several fake cuts all over his face from the makeup during Army of Darkness. He found it funny that the doctor couldn't tell the difference. They stitched him up and sent him back to shooting. So yeah, obviously it's not about this episode, but it's just they're talking about the battle scars and stuff, and I don't even know if that's a behind the scenes thing in Army of Darkness at all. But yeah, I just thought I'd add it in there because I found it interesting. Bruce and Dana created the scene together when Eligos is egging him on to kill her because they needed a filler scene to pad some stuff out. Nothing was written for them to do anything, so they had to go to Bruce's trailer and figure something out. Luckily, they had leeway to do that because there was a license freedom to do really whatever they wanted in this scene, and well, in the TV show in general. They didn't have to call them up to do a little line change or anything like that. They just had the freedom to kind of be creative there, which is surprising because we all know the license hell of Evil Dead. But Yeah, I thought it was interesting that that scene was just kind of made up between Bruce and Dana herself. Dana and Ray were laughing, creating the eligos, grabbing Pablo out of her mouth scene because all they had was this little apparatus, and Dana had to keep her mouth open the whole time. They both would work in sync to move back and forth with moaning, and they ended up just saying, "What the fuck are we doing?" and started laughing. And yeah, that's it. I mean, listening to that was hilarious to hear because, you know, you could just imagine how they were acting, and, you know, there's nothing actually there. It's just this apparatus between them both, and they're both kind of moving backwards and forwards with their mouths open and moaning. It's just like, yeah, it would be hard not to laugh at that. They used an air mortar cannon to shoot the green goo, Eligos's blood, all over Pablo and Ash. Bruce said that he thought it was good because when the stuff hits you, it's a natural reaction, so there's no acting required. Filming the burning brujo scene, Ray was standing a bit closer to the fire than Bruce and Dana. You can see his eyes twitching in the episode, as in the take they actually use. You can see his eyes start going like that, and it's actually pretty funny. During recording the scene, Ray stopped halfway through and ran away screaming, saying, "It's hot, it's hot." Bruce and Dana just didn't move either because they were further back. They then put some Vaseline around his eyes as a precaution so they wouldn't burn. When Ash flipped off Pablo at the end, it was improvised by Bruce, and Dana was surprised they kept it in because the final scene was just supposed to be them bumping fists. I thought it was funny as well, and, you know, watching it today, I was like, I bet you Bruce improvised that and brought that himself to the TV show. I thought it was funny they kept it in, though. Now, moving on to IMDb trivia. Honestly, a lot of DVD commentary there. I was very surprised because most of the time we don't really get to hear all this behind the scenes stuff. They're always talking about different projects they've worked on and how it compares to it. So I don't find that really that interesting to talk about, but all this behind the scenes stuff is what I like to see. You know, how did they create this scene? What happened during filming this scene? All that stuff. And hopefully we get a bit more of that in the future episodes. This is the second time that Ash receives a metal hand. That's on IMDb trivia, by the way. And when the possessed Kelly slips the shotgun shell into the gun while Pablo is holding it near his face, the primer on the shell has clearly already been struck and so would not fire. So far, this is the lowest rated on IMDb, getting a 7.8 out of 10. So the first 3 episodes got like between an 8.2 and an 8.5. The last episode got a 7.9. This one's got a 7.8, and a lot of people are actually bitching and moaning about the director on this one. I thought the director was fine, and, you know, I thought it was a really good episode. So yeah, it's kind of weird seeing that because I thought the last 2 episodes, I mean, obviously, MJ Bassett stuff was really well done. I thought MJ Bassett did a great job. I just think this director enhances the characters a lot more than what MJ Bassett did, even though they're both really good. They're just good in their own ways in directing. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting that this is the lowest rated so far, and, you know, a lot of people kind of shit on it on IMDb, just reading some quick reviews there. But honestly, it's been my favorite episode since the pilot, I would say. Now, moving on to your guys' thoughts. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watching the episode, leaving your thoughts, giving me your review and your rating. So, you know, it really pads out, I guess, the podcast. Otherwise, right now, we would just be going over my overall thoughts and ending the podcast. So I get to hear your guys' thoughts and talk about them and express my reaction to them as well. So we'll move on to Sporter's thoughts. His thoughts on episode 5, The Host. This was another excellent episode from David Fraser. It's pronounced David Fraser, I believe. That's the way Dana said it in the DVD commentary. While I didn't enjoy it as much as the last one, there were definitely some shining moments in the series so far for me, which we'll get into, and also a weird continuity error that I noticed. It's probably the one with Ash, I'm guessing. Starting with the episode, we picked right up where we left off last time. It's nice we got a 2-part story instead of them just rushing into one episode. I agree. I like having these little 2-parters that are sectioned in, you know, a series. Because obviously the whole series can be a whole kind of story played out and continuing each episode. But then, you know, when you've got these little, I want to say distraction episodes, I guess, even though it's still progressing the main story, having them together and kind of creating an hour-long episode, I thought is a really nice way to go about it. Fraser and the writers took their time with it, and I appreciate that. Essentially, the whole episode was following our heroes getting Eligos out of Kelly's body and mind. While this wasn't bad, I feel like we spent just a tad bit too much time on this segment of the story. I do see that actually. I never really thought about it, but yeah, it's kind of like the whole Books from Beyond episode, which I disliked because we spent so much time there. Again, it's sort of happening here where something's playing out a little bit too long. But I suppose it was there to, even though it's played out through the whole episode, I suppose it's there to kind of expand on the characters even more and their chemistry, I guess, is how they're doing that. And then you say, I feel as though it could have been condensed by about 5 to 10 minutes, if I'm being honest. However, if you can also look at it from the perspective that it built on the relationship between the ghost beaters and how they will fight for each other until the bitter end, which moves to my next point. Exactly, like, yeah, you know, I kind of cut you off there before reading the rest of what you had to say about you saying it could be condensed in 5 to 10 minutes. But one thing that I loved in this episode was Eligos continuing to toy with the emotions of everyone. While we got some of this in the last episode where Ash had focused more on Pablo here, which I liked, Eligos uses manipulation and emotions or feelings Pablo has towards Kelly very well. I mean, this episode is more focused on Pablo than any of the other two characters. Obviously, last episode, they're kind of doing a smart thing here where, you know, we had Kelly's episode with our family. Then we have sort of Ash's episode when he's trying to summon Eligos. And then we have another episode with Ash doing the backstory as well. And then we finally have an episode with Pablo where he's, you know, reached his uncle. And we're learning a bit more about the character and, you know, how he's reacting to these types of things and how he's played across, I guess. You know, Eligos uses manipulation and emotions or feelings Pablo has towards Kelly very well. I feel like this translated very well from the original movies, as that's what the Deadites did to get close to their prey. Attack them mentally and emotionally rather than physically. I also found it funny that Eligos was getting so tired of waiting on emotionally draining Pablo to the point where he revealed himself and went straight to try and kill him. I don't know if he was trying to kill Pablo. I know he was trying to possess him. Like I said before, it might be because Pablo has more fear inside of him than Kelly does, and that's why he went to try and possess him. But yeah, I thought it was interesting they did that. I really didn't expect. Like I said, I thought Ash was just going to kill Kelly. I didn't expect her to get unpossessed at all. The first time I ever watched this, I remember that. Another point I would like to note that on the scene with Ash and possess Kelly, I thought it was really smart of the writers to implement the skill gap between Ash and the others with this scene in particular. When Eligos is trying to bait Ash out into killing Kelly, he remembers that she was Jewish rather than Christian for the cross. I love that they incorporated that little detail. It shows that Ash pays attention to his friends and their backgrounds. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ash wouldn't ever forget an awkward moment like that either. While he may seem dumb, like a dumb, funny character, behind that is experience. He's been through this time and time again, and I appreciated that the writers implemented this to tell the audience that he's still the same Ash. Additionally, it's helpful for the audiences who are not so familiar with Ash's character in the notion that he is not someone to be underestimated. It shows the difference between Pablo being manipulated and feeding into versus Ash not buying it at all. Great scene overall. Yeah, like I said, like that's why Eligos kind of wanted to play it into or get into Pablo, because he was easy to manipulate. And obviously Ash, you try to manipulate Ash, and Ash was just like, nah, don't fuck with me. I know what's going on here, which I thought was cool. It really shows a dynamic and for the character, and to enhance him further and elevate him further as a character for people who are not familiar with him, which was really cool. When it comes to cinematography, Fraser killed it again. While I didn't think it was as dynamic as captivating as the last episode, there were still some great shots in this one, particularly the disgusting and uncomfortable close-ups of possessed Kelly and even the bombastic angled shots of the Eligos fight. However, there was one shot that just stole it for me, and this was the final shot of the episode. I love the way it starts off as a wide-angle track and drone shot to present the audience that the Ghost Beaters are done with that chapter, and I'm moving on to the next one. Yeah, I said that at the end as well. I absolutely loved that, you know, if they used a helicopter or a drone to film that. I kind of got that sense from the episode and some of the scenes at the end when they're burning brew hole and they're driving off. Like, you know, that's kind of, this is the end of the chapter and we need to stick together. It's like you said here, gives that feeling of the content and the peacefulness within the viewers, but then it slowly descends from the sky closer and closer to the Delta as it transitions into the perspective of evil once again, hinting that they're still being hunted, and it was a great moment to end off the episode as it keeps the audience guessing what is going to happen next after feeling at peace for a few moments. Absolutely brilliant. you are right on that one. Like I said, I was a little bit, I don't know what was going to happen in the next one, but yeah, I suppose, you know, thinking about it now, they did sort of transition it into being the evil still hunting them. But yeah, I still would have liked a little bit of like what's going to happen next. But yeah, I did enjoy that, and you know, I do think that David Frazee still kept. Obviously, we didn't have the whole Sam Raimi camera movement too much. We had it on the start of one scene that I mentioned before, but he did do really well in the close-ups of the props and stuff to kind of give you the atmosphere really well. Where he's doing the close-up of the leeches and everything, like, you know, in doing the depth of field stuff between Brujo and the leech, and you know, close-ups of Kelly, like you mentioned. I thought, you know, some of the angle of the shots and everything was a lot similar to the last one, and maybe they didn't use it as much. And yeah, I mean, the last episode was a lot more, I would say, frantic, with different scenes and different areas, because we had so many different sets in the last episode. Obviously, we had the road, then we had Brewer's hut, and then Ash went on his trip, and then we got to see so many different areas as well. Maybe that's why we didn't get to see so much of the way he would do his cinematography and, you know, doing some of his shots, because it was all pretty much filmed in the same location, right? So that's maybe why. But yeah, I know what you mean with that. The main negative I have with this episode, other than the pacing as stated earlier, is the scene where Eligos is coming out with Kelly and Ash says something like, "Oh look, it's this bitch again." It's a bit of a nitpick, I guess, but it really is annoying, and as it is quite literally a continuity error in the writing. That's what I said before. It just didn't make any sense, because obviously Ash knew exactly who it was. But you do talk about here, Ash becomes aware that Eligos is the one behind all of this. So why is he so surprised all of a sudden that it's him coming out of Kelly? Now, while you could say that he didn't exactly know Eligos was inside Kelly, he still was well aware that he was in the area. So it just threw me off, in all honesty. Again, this comes back to my point last episode, where the writing seems to be so consistent at one point and completely inconsistent somewhere else. Again, we always have a different writer for each episode, which I don't agree with. Obviously, we get Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi's input on the script and everything. And they proofread the drafts and stuff like that, and before it becomes like the defining thing. And obviously, I don't know, when they're filming stuff like this, how is the director not questioning things like this? They get so far into the episode, and then, you know, Ash reacts like, "Oh, this is Eligos." Doesn't make any sense. So you'd think, you know, somewhere someone would have changed something, but yeah, I just don't know. The writing is kind of all over the place sometimes. To end this off, I wanted to highlight my favorite scene. This was a scene that, when I first saw, was the moment where Pablo became one of my favorites in Evil Dead universe. In the scene, Pablo and the others are burying and burning his uncle, who unfortunately died in this episode. Where Pablo is in emotional turmoil throughout and cannot process Brujo being gone really got me. From being tormented with Kelly and thinking she had feelings for him, to losing his uncle, it was well acted by Ray Santiago. Not only that, but Brujo leaving his pendant to Pablo as a sign to continue his legacy was awesome. And Pablo wants to take this path on, and he is much more confident than ever before. It also makes Pablo more central to the story as he starts to become an important figure going forward. I think Pablo kind of had that realization in him earlier in the episode, you know, when they're talking outside and Brujo says, you know, he's proud of him being able to identify who Ash was. And, you know, that probably given him a bit of confidence, being like, right, I've had enough of this. I'm going to start taking on some demons. He went after Eligos pretty aggressively, I guess. And then obviously Brujo died, and then he feels like he's sort of ready to start taking over the mantle there. So yeah, it would definitely develop the character a lot more, especially the way he was playing with Kelly inside of the trailer and the earlier scenes. It's definitely a Pablo episode more than anything, and it really, like, Pablo in the previous episodes was funny. He was there sort of I don't know, as a lighten factor or a lighten character, you know, just to kind of lift the moments up a little bit. That's what he was used for in the previous episodes. Now we kind of see him in a different light and what he can actually do to help Ash going forward, which I really like for this episode. And it finally lets you appreciate the character. You know, we finally got there halfway through the season. Overall, while I didn't collectively enjoy this episode as much as the last one, I'm surprised at that. I thought this one was much better, but, well, I wouldn't say much better, but, you know, I definitely liked it more than the last one. Still holds up as a great episode in my eyes. The emotional beats were strong throughout, and Fraze pulled it off with his beautiful direction once again. It makes you excited to see where the ghost beaters are going to next as they get more comfortable and confident with one another as the story progresses. I will give this episode 2 out of 3 chainsaws as a nice rating from Sporter. Yeah, I absolutely love all the thoughts that you gave here. Again, you know, you probably noticed, like me, there wasn't really much to talk about with the soundtrack, and you know, there wasn't really a use of music that well. There were some instances with the soundtrack that they used which kind of set the scene up a bit more, but you know, there wasn't really any standout songs or anything in this, which I think maybe is what was missing as well. You know, we kind of like to talk about that and notice that. I will say though that this episode definitely had a really beautiful shot that I don't think you actually talked about. Obviously, you said it had a bunch of nice ones, but you know, the shot with Pablo and Brujo outside, it was probably one of the best looking shots in this that we probably maybe had in the entire season so far. I thought it was really nice. Just that lighting was great. It was either that or was on par with Kelly and when Kelly's burying her parents with the lighting on that scene, because that's really good. But yeah. Thank you for your thoughts, Border. Let's move on to Swash. This has been one of my favorite episodes so far, and with how it picks right up after the events of episode 4, makes it feel like a part 1 and part 2 kind of thing, not a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, we get a bit tired of seeing the whole tying things up in a knot at the end of the episode and moving on to the next thing. I think it's a bit So it was nice to finally get a nice part 1 and part 2. We kind of get that more and more as the seasons go on and as the episodes go on, so you'll definitely enjoy that. This one was very creepy to me, since the whole possession subgenre of horror freaks me out at times. The Exorcist is still one of the scariest movies to me. The suspension and build-up of Eligos' possession of Kelly was nicely done with how he was toying with him. Blaming Ash being possessed and trying to manipulate Pablo using his feelings for Kelly, and on top of that, Ash using Ash's boomstick as a bong, getting Pablo to join in while trying to slip in a shell to kill him was diabolical. Yeah, I thought it was a nice way to kind of do that as well. I honestly wasn't expecting it when I first watched this, and I was like, oh, that's actually a really smart kind of way to manipulate them and trying to kill them. The exorcism of Kelly was well done and very eerie with the special effects on Kelly. Again, the special effects for the show are just very well done. We'll skip over the CGI puke on that one. we can see the struggles of Ash being torn on what to do with Kelly, especially when Eligos starts begging to kill her using Kelly's voice. We think that Ash just might do it until Eligos comments about putting a cross on her grave, in which Ash recalls that Kelly is Jewish and then snaps out of it. The little callback to the crosses scene and joke from episode 2 was just a chef's kiss. Yeah, really smart writing there. Sporter picked it out. I didn't really pick that out. I did notice it, but you know, it didn't stand out to me because it just feels like a standard to the writing in this show sometimes, as to where it was kind of natural reaction of what Ash would do, and Ash would definitely always pull something like that out of the bag and being like, you know, fuck you, I know what you're doing. And yeah, it was a really, really well written thing there. I love when TV shows kind of go back and pull things out of previous seasons and episodes, and you know, if you've watched everything and you're like, oh yeah, that's a throwback to that, you know, it's really cool when they do stuff like that. I did not expect Brujo and Eligos to die so quickly though, but I'm guessing with the amulet dropping from funeral pyre into Pablo's possession will set him up to become the Brujo. Also, is Brujo's amulet what inspired the amulet in the game? It is indeed. It is the very same amulet. You can actually see on the artwork of Pablo in the game, he is holding Brujo's amulet. Obviously, the amulets kind of give you that shield stuff in the game, which, you know, it's interesting. You know, the shield sort of... there's more about the amulet as we're going into the episodes, so I won't spoil it for you, but there is more to it, and how the amulet kind of reacts with evil. So that's why you'll learn about why Ruby can't pick it up and stuff like that in the game. So there's a lot of backstory there. I hope Eligos isn't gone forever, but him being boomsticked into a mist of goop was cool. Yeah, I did like that. And it was one of those scenes when I was first watching the TV show that I was just like, man, this is fucking awesome, you know. And the way Ash just blows him up, it stuck with me. I did like it. Sadly, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you, but Eligos is gone forever. That's the end of Eligos, sadly. And which, you know, seeing the end of that episode, and you're kind of like, right, who's the next demon, right? And you know, that's kind of what we kind of like. That's what we want to think of Ash vs. Evil Dead, is like, how many more demons are we going to get? You know, we're starting to see a newish side of Ash emerging as well, where it seems like he's starting to become a leader, embracing the team. We already saw him stand up for Pablo against Brujo in this episode. He apologizes to them for everything that has happened before making a middle finger with his new hand. Yeah, like I said, showing the human side of Ash, and you know, Bruce throwing in the middle finger. There's improvisation is just fucking hilarious, man. Let's talk about that hand though. Like, rule of cool, and that hand is definitely cool, but how the hell did Pablo make that thing in such a fast time frame, and how does Ash even control it? It's a TV show about deadites and demons, but the hand just seems like such a stretch, even by Evil Dead standards. Look, suspend disbelief, okay, then you can enjoy it more. But yeah, I mean, getting down to it, it bothered me a lot. Like, how the fuck did Pablo make this? And where did he find the time? Because this literally just skipped into the next episode of him knocking Ash out. All of a sudden, like, the last thing we seen Pablo do with a glove was get electrocuted on the floor and pass out, pretty much. Yeah. And then we cut to Brujo running to pick him up to help him out, while Kelly, as Eligos, is fucking with Ash, and Ash starts choking her, and then Pablo runs up with Brujo and knocks him out. Then he comes to, he's all gagged. Pablo's still there with Kelly. Then the entire episode plays out pretty much with Pablo in almost every scene. So when the fuck did he find time to create this? But like we said, suspend disbelief, I guess. You know, if you start really digging deep into this episode, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense with how things are laid and how it's sort of wibbly wobbly, I guess. Just as they say on Doctor Who, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. You know, it's all spaghetti. You know, if you started picking everything out, where the continuity just doesn't make sense. But that is Ash vs. Evil Dead. You will not like the ending of season 2 if you're picking things out like that. I'll say that. Because, oh boy, that's something else. Which we'll definitely get to at some point, right? But yeah, like you said, you know, it's just a stretch even by Evil Dead standards. I'm still not feeling Amanda much right now. It just doesn't feel like she's adding much to the show or story arcs. Ruby as well, but she is at least interesting because of how Lucy Lawless portrays the character, and there's a certain allure or mystery built around her. Amanda's gonna, I think it's next episode. Yeah, it might be next episode where you'll finally see Amanda as a more established character, I guess, and more or less episode 7 as well. She definitely gets as a better character. She's really, like, to be honest, rewatching this, she had such a good scene in the first episode, the pilot, when they enter in the mansion and stuff like that. And then just the way they're using her in these previous episodes, she feels like such a waste as to where they could be doing a lot more with the character and making her a lot more interesting. But timing, again, 30-minute episodes, that's probably why, you know, some characters just don't get the limelight at all. But yeah, I mean, Lucy Lawless, the way she plays Ruby is great. You know, she probably did that herself in the car in that scene where she's like stroking her cheek and stuff. You know, Lucy Lawless probably did that just to kind of enhance Ruby as a character even more. An excellent episode all around. Since I give the previous one 3 chainsaws, I also give this one 3 chainsaws as well, since I enjoyed it even more. And it's a direct continuation of episode 4 as well. Not a bad thing, honestly. Having the 2-parter. 3 chainsaws again. Perfect score. Perfect score, even though this is the lowest rated so far on IMDb. I do check the ratings for each episode, and yeah, this one's been the lowest out of the season so far. Andrew says, this was my favorite episode since the debut. I definitely liked and enjoyed Eligos and seeing Ash step up as a leader, and Kelly possessed Keligos. You said the same thing as me, called them Keligos. Was definitely eerie. Rip Brujo as well. Yeah, Rip Brujo, man. I really wanted to see more of this character. I mean, spoiler, we do kind of see a little bit of him, but, you know, not not alive, I guess. Which, you know, Pablo does kind of hint at that at the end of the episode, like, you know, we might see him again, because wherever he is, he's talking to me. Amanda and Ruby are uninteresting at this time as well. Also, a lot of suspension of disbelief is required to buy in Pablo making a fully working animatronic hand for Ash. A big amount of suspension of disbelief there is required, 100%. And Andrew gives it 2 chainsaws. So I think, Andrew, you liked it a lot better than the last episode. The last episode, I think you gave 1 or 1.5, right? I think it might have been 1.5. I do think this one is definitely better. And like you said, this is your favorite episode since the debut. Totally agree on that. You know, there's things there'll be a reason why I don't give it a perfect score, but we'll get into that in my thoughts now. But I appreciate you guys leaving all your thoughts down below. If you want to participate in future episodes, if you're watching this and just listening, if you guys want to get involved, just watch the episode. I put a community post out. You can comment on this podcast down below and just give me your thoughts. Or if you're in the Discord, DM me them, and I just copy and paste them into my little thing here and just read it all. So yeah. I really like hearing other people's opinions. It makes me think about the episode in a different way, and some different, you know, some of the scenes in a different way as well. So I definitely enjoy all that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys typing and taking the time to do this, because it's a lot of fun. Overall thoughts for myself, I love this episode. It's been my favorite one since the pilot, easily. Continuing the pace of the last one as well, which was also a good one. So the last one, again, was kind of slower pace, but then it built up into a faster pace thing, and then they kept that pace going in this episode, which was great. But that showcased us more of Ash's backstory and character in the last character development, which was really well done in the last episode. This one, however, shows us more about Pablo and his character's journey, again, done really well to enjoy the character more and what he's going to have to offer to help Ash defeat evil. We have good possession sequence in this one as well. We then moved into unpossession phase. You know, it's got the gore, Ash killing another Deadite, and then we had a death as well, which was a big factor there. Everyone seems to be, I think there's been a death almost in every episode, pretty much, right? Because we always feel like there has to be consequences of what they're doing in the moment as well. So they're trying to unpossess Eligos. Things don't go to plan, consequences, you know, action and consequences. And it plays a really big role in this episode. And it's something not to be overlooked, honestly. And it's a great way to, again, keep the, I suppose, atmosphere right for the show, that, and around the characters and how they're acting, in a way of showing how, even though they're trying to do the right thing, there's consequences to what they're doing. So yeah, again, I got a question what the fuck Amanda and Ruby are doing. I suppose they were in this episode just for the sake of giving us some questions at the end. If they're going to be chasing after them down the motorway or something next episode, weird use of the characters again, honestly. Yeah, I'll stick by that, what I said. It's just like, why I don't even think we needed them in this episode, even though I like the scene. It just feels like something that could have been maybe at the start of the next episode, you know, just the way things play out. You'll see why I say that. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. Got to see Dana act possessed and seductive. It was really fun. You know, she was super hot in this episode as well. Definitely bumps the rating up, I would say. Still seeing more backstory of the characters done in a quick way because of how well the actors showcased their emotions during scenes as well. Then great directing, writing was a lot better this episode, apart from one little thing with what Ash said when Eligos was leaving Kelly. My overall rating for this is 2.5 chainsaws. It's not the perfect score. Again, it's mainly due to the continuity error and with the whole hand ordeal. And then I just didn't really like the ending of it. Like, it was funny, the ending of the episode, but I would have liked to have a little cliffhanger or something like that. You know, maybe the Ruby and Amanda scene could have been at the end of the episode instead. You know, to set up the next episode of like, oh shit, they're going the right way and they're not too far behind. Like, they could have done something like that at the end. I think would have just kind of made use of the characters a lot better as well. Hello, Future Pixels, jumping straight in here. I forgot to give you guys my favorite scene. So obviously we had a bunch of good scenes here. We had Kelly and Pablo in the trailer together. We had Kelly being possessed in front of Ash and everybody. That was a really cool scene as well. and we had Pablo at the end becoming the next Brujo, I guess. So from those three, it's very hard to pick from, but I'd probably go with Kelly and Pablo inside the trailer, because just the way Dana was acting in that scene was fantastic. Being all flirty with Pablo and stuff, and Pablo reacting to her, and sort of being really really awkward and very frightened and excited at the same time. I love that scene in this episode. It's really great. But yeah, that's probably my favorite scene. But yeah, again, another great episode for Ash vs. Evil Dead. I definitely think with this episode though, the acting was so much better than the previous ones. I'm not saying the acting was terrible in other ones. There was some of them with Dana and Ray, maybe the books from Beyond one and stuff like that, where they just didn't really, they seemed a bit out of it. And to be honest, I don't know if that was just a director thing. There were some scenes even in the Kelly episode where she was, where her parents got killed and stuff. There were some scenes there that you're just looking at the acting and you're like, oh, it could have been done a little bit better here. And, with these last two episodes with the new director, I feel like the acting has been on point and it's been really good. I mean, that could have just been a confidence thing from the actors as well, and them building more chemistry with each other as the scenes are going on and stuff like that. So that could be what was going on there. It might not just be the director's fault. But again, like I said, these last two episodes just felt more fleshed out. Felt like the show finally hit a stride and, started walking and running. And, the next episode, which is, of course, The Killer of Killers. If it's the one I'm thinking of, whether in the diner and stuff, it's going to be a really good one. A lot of people will love that one, I think. And, I don't think it's as good as this one, but, we'll get into it, obviously, next week. And it is a really fun experience to go through that. But I'm sure you guys will enjoy going through that episode next week. It's going to be a lot of fun reading reviews for that one. So this episode, Ash's blood splatter count is 1. Finally. Overall blood splatter count is 3. Deadite kill count so far, but classing Eligos as a Deadite, is at 10. Ash kills Eligos. So I think Ruby and Ash are almost potentially tied on killing Deadites, right? Nah, Ash has definitely killed a lot more. But yeah, we're sitting at 10 right now, which is awesome. But yeah, Ash kills Eligos, and we don't see him again, unfortunately. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it was going to be a little bit longer because we had just so much more to read through and to go through. There was a lot of DVD commentary and stuff, and hopefully for the next episode we have that as well. I can't really remember the next episode too much. Obviously, it's called The Killer of Killers, and like I said, if it's the one in the diner, you will really enjoy it. And I don't know. And I remember some scenes, but it's gonna be a fun one regardless, because if it is the one I'm thinking of, that's when shit really hits the fan. Pun intended. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment down below as well. It really helps out the channel and the algorithms and all that shit. If you want to go a step further of supporting the channel and the podcast, you can become a member by hitting the join button. There's a link in the description as well. I got my membership, my lowest membership, priced at like $3 or $4 or something like that. And yeah, it's nice and cheap, but it supports me. It helps me buy new equipment, doing my setup the way I've done it now. I've been getting some nice, some comments on, my room looks really nice now. Not these horrible white walls that I had before. It kind of creates a better scene, I guess, for what I want to do, and just the lighting looks a lot better and everything like that. And it's all thanks to you guys. Obviously, we're supporting the channel, going out to be able to buy some upgrades and stuff for the office and for the channel, and the intro that I did at the start of the podcast, that cost a bit of money, my new logo as well. So all that, it's all thanks to you guys supporting the channel, and that's how we be able to create things. And eventually maybe I'll get a better mic, because this one, I've had this one a couple of years now, and it's getting to its end, I think. And yeah, doing a podcast, I need a good mic. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button. And I've been Pixel, my awesome viewers. I'll catch you guys in the next one.